Hello, welcome back to day two of Apidays. You're on stage two at the API Products and Beyond track here. My name is Allan Knabe. I work at apiable.io, and I'm going to be your MC for today. Today we have some interesting talks. Coming up next after this one, we have Christoph talking about API design in Linter. Rob Greenwood from X8 talking about data privacy at API scale. And lastly, we have Pavel talking about API for multi-cloud management platforms. So we've got some interesting speakers coming up. Now, for those of you who are tuning in expecting to see the presentation from Jay right now, unfortunately, he's taken sick. So you lucky people get to listen to me talk about API products and why are they so hard. So let's jump into that one. So API products, and addressing this topic of why are they hard. So we'll go through that first, and then we'll address some ideas on how to make it a little bit easier. As I just mentioned, I am Allan Knabe, and I work at Apiable, a company we founded 2 years ago now. We concentrate on making API portals as a service. So that whole API portal story that's maybe a little bit difficult. A lot of people are making their own API portals. And what we do is we effectively create the portal as a service. As you can see here, I've worked for mainly larger enterprises. As you can see, so Swisscom, Connor, yeah, mainly larger ones. So working in a startup the last 2 years has been a lot of fun. And we're also a proud member of the API Collective. So the API Collective is something we started during the coronavirus as a means to get API experts together and help organizations that were desperately trying to get APIs done during that period. And we continue nowadays as well as the API Collective. Go ahead and check that out after the presentation. So on with the show then. This question of, why treat your APIs as products in the first place is, one question we get quite a lot. If I look back to when we started doing this, it's around that kind of 2015 period in time when we went to see APIG in California. We had a nice week there. We won an award. And here you can see some of their APIs in this screen that they have when you walk in. You get to take a picture of yourself. So we had some fun with that. And this is my CTO, Alex, and this is me, and this is Fabio, our lead developer. So that's back in 2015. Now, this was a point where APIG said, okay, introduce this idea, this concept of API as a product. And we had absolutely no idea what they were talking about, right? So we were developers. And we're like, okay, look, we just want to make APIs, give them to developers, and that's that, right? Developers don't need products. So we struggled with it, right? And that was kind of 2015 and where we were at that point in time. Gartner, sort of caught on to this a little bit later as well. So 2017, maybe 2016, they created this research paper about creating the role of API product manager. So that's coming in at 2017 or so. And what they're effectively saying there is the reason you would want to do that at that point in time is that it will make the internal API story easier, right? Since then, I think we've moved on a step, but it's still valid, right? They're still talking about the fact that you've got projects, but the APIs are something that should be reusable. So each project should not create its own API effectively. You should have one API product, which is reusable and consumable amongst the enterprise. So that was kind of the take. But you can see we haven't been talking about APIs as products or API products for a long time. It's relatively new, and we're just starting to get a good handle on those now. Digital business success, okay, addressing this, like why you would want to have an API as a product, right? Organizations out there, they're looking at this. The business leaders are saying, okay, maybe they're in a field that's been disrupted by new people coming in, and they're seeing, okay, APIs as a way of creating new digital business, right? Looking to survive and make more revenue, right? This is the dream that we've been talking about for 10 years now. We're seeing some successes here. We'd like to see more. Now, going on to why API products are hard, right? And there's some interesting ones in this. Number one, there's no GUI, right? I mean, APIs are by nature abstract, right? You can't see it. Okay, you can see documentation, but APIs is something that doesn't have a GUI. It's not there so you can show someone and they can click a button. If you talk to somebody about the cloud, they can see cloud, so I can give it to my mother. She can have on her phone, maybe she's got Apple or whatever, she can see, okay, things going from her phone to the cloud. She can go in a browser to Google Drive and see documents in the cloud. We're all very used to the cloud thing, but the APIs in the background that make all of that possible are invisible. It's hard to agree on a decision maker. So when we're talking about APIs, and we have for many years just been talking about the developers. Now, over the last few years, we're starting to talk more and more about business personas, and how that they're, potentially the decision makers on this, right? So we've got these developers versus business roles. In a lot of organizations, the developers are saying, okay, why do we have API products? Our customer is the developer. And there's a lot of people sort of also talking about the fact that we need to start speaking to the decision makers in the organizations about using the APIs, right? I always come back to this slide, right? I've had this slide in my deck for about 4 years now, I think, but it's still valid, right? It's from Ash, who wrote the book Running Lean. Really good book. You should definitely read it. And very simple statement, right? A customer is someone who pays for your product. A user does not, right? So when you have an API as a product, you must know who the customer is. That's the first thing you need to know, right? Who are you addressing? What's your target market for this product? So knowing who that customer is really important. And for me, a good sort of litmus test here is if it's a developer, especially in the United States, not so much in Europe, but in the United States, a lot of developers get given credit cards and say, okay, you've got a monthly spend or whatever it is. A lot of developers are able to purchase an API product via a credit card. So if you've got an API product and you're able to, I don't know, it's up to 100 euros a month or something, or $100 a month. And that could be a product that a developer can consume. If you're in a situation where you're having to sign a contract, NDAs and, all sorts of legal work beforehand, it's not probably a product you could give to a developer directly. There would have to be a conversation between those organizations, sometimes at a very high level, CEO to CEO, or then within the purchasing departments, etc. It's easy to fall into the utility trap, right? So APIs as utility is also a thing, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If I think back to my time at Swisscom, we had one of our first APIs was IP to zip, right? IP to PZ in German. And what that meant was that you could take any IP address and find out, approximately where that person lived, right? Really cool API, right? At Swisscom at this time, we were having like 1 million daily calls on that. We were very proud of this, right? But this was pre-product, right? So we didn't have any revenue from this. We didn't charge any money. We didn't really know who was using it, what the target market was. There's no business case for this. And I'm not even certain it's around anymore. But it was very popular, very useful, but no one ever thought to productize it. And it just became like this utility service effectively. Whereas if you look at later on, we had like the payments API, which is my API, where you've got thousands of end customers You have a business objective for it by saying, okay, what the target margin would be. And you say, okay, who is the target audience and your target customers that you can go after for this, right? So you can see you've got API. Sure. I mean, they were both exposed on the same API portal utility, which was IP to PLZ and payments API. But the point is that here we actually had a strategy on what we wanted to do with this thing. Yeah, and that sort of raises that question, right? Can you start with the utility, and does it, become a product later on, and vice versa? So that's definitely something you can think about. If you have a bunch of APIs at the moment, to look through them again with the product management lens and say, okay, is it possible to convert this into a product? Activation is difficult. Right, activation is something that, as you get it more into API product management, you'll learn a little bit more about. So sign up is the moment when someone begins a trial, right? So they sign up for an account with something. So I'm sure you've done this as well from your app store on your phone. You search for something, you look at it and you think, I think I know what that does. So you click on it, you download it, you get it open, and then this time to activation starts, right? This countdown timer, effectively. You want to have a very low activation time, and that's where they can see the value that this thing provides, right? So if you've got an app on your phone and you want to, I don't know, measure the distance between the window or something, then you're going to find out pretty quickly if this thing can do the job. And if it can do the job, then you might also become a paying customer. So when we have our APIs, so yeah, the eureka moment is when you hit that sort of activation point. Say, I know what this does. It's providing value. I've understood the value proposition of this. And how do we see the value proposition of an API is the point. Because with an API, it's you can sign up, you can get like keys, etc. And we do have some things like triad functionality and stuff like this, but it's difficult, right? It makes the API a difficult product to sell if we don't have that like GUI and you can see the value proposition and find out easily what it is. Product managers don't love APIs. Well, yeah, I mean, product managers typically over the last 100+ years have been dealing with tangible products, Converse sneakers, etc. And what we're dealing with nowadays are digital products like apps and software and so on. They're still tangible things, right? You can see them, you can work with them, you understand how they are. If you take a product manager and say, okay, here's a digital product that you can't see, create this into a fantastic product for us, please. They would probably struggle with that a little bit. The API is a technical thing, right? You do need to be able to conjure up in your head, okay, how this thing works and what the value is. You need to be able to have that vision. And from that perspective, I feel that it's easier to take someone who is maybe a little bit more technical, understands the API, and train them to be a product manager. Because there's so much material on how to be a product manager out there, but there's very little on how to be an API product manager. There's precious few of them, right? If you're looking to hire an API product manager, you're going to struggle, right? You need to have probably deep pockets, I think, if you really want someone with 5 years experience or something like that. There's very few product managers out there. We think about them the wrong way. So a lot of organizations, especially when they start out with APIs, they start with this inside out mentality versus this outside in. So when it's an inside out mentality, it's basically always in large organizations, they're like, okay, our most valuable thing is this. If we give it to the outside world, they will also like it. Well, not necessarily, right? Something that's very useful for the organization internally might not necessarily be interesting to an external audience. They might just not need that thing, right? So that's why we need to do this outside in thinking, which is where we actually speak to our customers, find out what their problems are, and try and solve them with digital products. Strategy, right? It's also hard if we don't have the right kind of strategy. We've been following for a long time this if you build it, will they come mentality, or they will come. It's so, again, I'm talking a lot about larger organizations where your core product sells. So if you create an API product and throw it out there, people will just come and start using it, right? But the world doesn't work like that. You have to work hard to make your API products good, searchable on the internet, be able to sell them just like you do any other product. A little bit about the API strategies as well. So, we've got the three, core strategies that I'm looking at right now. So API first is, for me, maybe a little bit more, tactical in nature, that we've gone from mobile first to API first. So it's about treating your APIs first. So you create an API, you can use it on mobile, you can use it on desktop, your apps, wherever. So it's kind of like more of a tactical thing there for me. API only. There's a lot of companies popping up now that just do APIs. A lot of fintechs whose core product is just the API. There's nothing else but the API. And then there's API led, which is, for me, maybe a little bit more on the strategic side. So that's talking more about company strategy to say, okay, we as a company are API led. So that's saying that we're going to do the APIs, normally API first strategy, but we're going to be led by the APIs. And some examples of, these are the ones we always show, of course, but, API first, or API led organization, Stripe, Twilio, SendGrid, etc. It's a, core product, right? So they may have GUIs around it, but ultimately at the end of the day, where they make their money is on APIs. Is your company API first? Right? So there's a question you need to ask yourself. It's hard to build great API products if your organization is not API first, right? So, it's this question about how can you then get your organization and say, okay, let's convert it to be an API first organization. Very, very difficult thing. As Kim Lane says, it's going to be hard, right? But that's kind of the questions you need to be asking yourself. How can API products be easier? So I had some lovely animations here, but they don't show up, unfortunately. A good API product should answer the following questions, right? Standard product management stuff, nothing really to do with APIs, but what's the market that you target? What's the problem you're solving? What does it do, and what business benefit does the product provide, right? Especially the problem, right? If I've been running a startup for 2 years now, and first year was just talking about, okay, is it a problem? Does it exist? Who has that problem, right? A lot of time and effort goes into that basic fundamental API product management. We can, to address this problem, also hire more API product managers if you can find one. They're a bit like unicorns, but if you can find one, then get one, especially with some experience, right? If they're good, get one into your organization and just give them some cash and a team and say, okay, go crazy. Swisscom, they did this. They had the Spotify Tribe Squad model. They had a product manager, a technical lead, a handful of developers, and we were basically given the freedom to create, which was amazing. We had so much fun. So if you can hire one, great, but ultimately you're probably going to end up taking someone who's reasonably technical, and say, okay, how about learning some product management? Then you get your API product manager. You can follow Mariukka's API ops cycles. That's pretty good in terms of what is excellent in terms of being the de facto product management methodology. And yeah, go and check that out. We've been using it for a while now, and it's really starting to mature. It's good. You can work with your stakeholders. Very important. If you're not doing this, then it's not going to work. You can't be like, for example, an IT team who have come to this conference and seen some API product presentations like this one and say, get excited and then start doing it if you don't have that stakeholder buy-in, right? So again, check some product management books on this as well about stakeholder alignment, stakeholder management, and yeah, you'll see there that there are probably some quadrants, for example, that you want to be targeting those people in the organization who can help you get to the next level, right? And those people that do understand, okay, the API and to be API led and really spend a lot of time talking to those people. This one I've seen done a few times. Again, it's one we did at Swisscom. Build a demo app to showcase your API products. So I spoke in the beginning about the fact that we have this like intangible API thing. So we built at Swisscom this demo app where all of the developers in the organization could add to this app. It became a bit of a Frankenstein thing, if we're being honest, but didn't matter because you could go to a new customer and you could show them the API in operation. So if it was like logging in with the Swisscom login or making a payment to the mobile, and you could see it within the app, etc. So it made this intangible thing tangible. And there's a few organizations who have done that by having this, demo app. Helps the developers to understand how it works. You can share the source code on that demo app. It's no problem. Yeah, and I think that's a really nice thing that we should do more often. Finding API examples, API products that work in your organization. For organization your size is important, in your industry, asking these core product management questions. So this is the last slide. It's kind of an ask to you. I mean, register your API products, but I'm interested in if you've got something you're proud of, or maybe even you're not so proud of it, but you're working on it. It's a work in progress. If you can let me know about your API products, I'm hoping to create a bit of a list here, share it with people, and show, okay, these are API products that are out in the world. We don't do this enough, right? We don't share our success cases. We keep saying the same ones over and over again. So reach out. You can come to the website, which is APIable, not apiable, as they say in Finland, as I learned. Pop me an email. Very easy to get hold of on LinkedIn. I'm always posting stuff, so you'll probably find me there as well. But yeah, just reach out. Thanks. Okay, so we've still got a couple of minutes. So on this registering of API products, what's also interesting is that we're starting a podcast, right, called Tales from the API Economy, and it extends on from this as well, right? So what we're effectively saying is, let's get these stories out there. So these tales, right, as I call them, people love stories. So we're going to get some of these successes that we've seen. So in previous organizations that I've worked at, for example, doing a short podcast, like 20-25 minutes, where I'll interview some of you guys, and we'll share these stories and get them out there. So it's not longer anything that we've been talking about this for 5 years now, and let's get some concrete examples out there. All right, so thank you very much.